All right, let's get into the fundamentals video, okay? The idea behind this is that we're just going to practice the absolute fundamentals of what Call of Duty is at the root, right? It's a movement and gunny game. So let's jump into the gunny side. Now, building guns is kind of a nuanced thing, but it's not that difficult. The idea is that we want to offset all the things that we don't like about the current build. So if you take a gun in that has nothing on it, just a sweet camo, you shoot it without correcting for it at all, right? We can see that it goes up and to the left, so that we know that at least off rip, the only thing that we really have to do to control this is hold down, okay? Before it starts to cut to the left. Pretty simple. So let's go in to our loadout and correct for those things, right? This is essentially the ported from BO6. First shot recoil, kick reset speed, and vertical recoil control. Great. Every COD gun in multiplayer ever has range and velocity problems, for the most part. So it's always good to have a mix of the two. On this specific build, we don't run an underbarrel. We're not running a magazine because we're looking for more of a comp style build. So we're looking for fast and manageable. The hex cut is the go-to on this build. There's a few other ones that you could probably justify, but for me specifically, the time for dive, slide, aim down sight, and jumping is all just it's almost too good. All those benefits come into handy whenever you get that movement under control. Start utilizing it. The water stock is going to be the go-to for our strafe speed. We need the ability to maneuver while we're in a gunfight as much as we need to be able to maneuver to get into that gunfight. Because I don't run an optic, I'm going to run buffer springs just to make the recoil even more manageable, although it may not necessarily be needed for you. This is just my style build. Current GAs say that you need to run an optic. You can't run a brake, and so it's up to you what you run with. But for me and for right now, leading up to this season 1 stuff, this is the build that I'm going to be running outside of anything that's competitive. So we'll take this gun into the firing range, and I'll show you. We have our previous here, right? So we knew that it was fairly aggressive. Not bad at all, but fairly aggressive. Now, without controlling the recoil, we can see that our pattern is overall smaller and more manageable, and we can see that before our first deviation, we have more rounds. So the idea here is that we're essentially going to try to fire our burst when we're in a gunfight at 10 rounds, okay? So if we keep our gunfights to 10 round burst, where we're focused on getting shots on the target, but not necessarily just hammering and pinning down a target. We're just in the gunfight. So we'll try to keep our burst at that 10 to 11, 12 round mark, to where we don't even have to do anything on the recoil except for pull down. So you can see here that it's short, it's easy, it's manageable, and we kept it under that 10 rounds. So long as you have a break in between all of them, you're not going to have any issues. The recoil overall for this build is entirely manageable just by holding down and then to the right if you have to do that sustained fire. It's not a difficult gun to manage at all. So we're going to get into centering a lot more whenever we go in to shoot bots, but essentially the idea is not that you're in the center of your screen at chest level in every room that you're in. The idea is that you are doing that, but you're also squaring your body up and centering on where you anticipate targets to be. If you're new to the game, your best bet is to anticipate that there's a target around every corner, because chances are you don't know spawns, you don't know how Call of Duty flows, so you need to understand that your threats are everywhere. So let's get into a bot lobby and we will talk about centering more, gunfights more, and just overall practice. The idea here is that we run as many bots as we feel comfortable with. We set them to the lowest standard because we're not trying to get gunned by bots. We're just trying to work on our gunning, work on our movement, work on our anticipation and centering. So we're going to do that. We're going to do it on free-for-all. So start with it on team deathmatch, add the bots, and then switch it to free-for-all. Right now they have kind of a glitch with that, but that's the way to get bots into a free-for-all with you. So the loadout that we run, it doesn't really matter what you're running, because You're just there to practice with a gun. So run a build that you're trying to get better with, run a build that you're trying to run in comp, run a build that you're trying to run in ranked, whatever. But run the build the exact same way that you would. Having a big magazine and all that stuff makes the gun handle differently, and you don't want that. So essentially, I'm not worried about the pistol. I use the pistol on occasion. I'm not trying to get knife kills. I want to make sure I have enough ammo, and I'm running. Essentially, I'm running the kit that I would run in a ranked map. Okay, so we know that. You've always heard people say, "Oh, you got center better. Oh, you got center better." Well, if I'm centered right here, right, in the typical sense of centering, I'm shooting at the floor. That's not where they're going to be. Centering is the idea that when I come around a corner, that I'm centered where they're going to be, right? I'm sliding on doors and entrances where they're going to be. I'm using my eyes and my ears to tell me what I need to be looking for, right? Using headies to my best of my advantage. If I'm in a gunfight with a guy right here, right, and I slide out all the way, I leave all my cover, everything behind. There's no point in that. Use the cover that's to your advantage. If you have to slide out on something, slide out on something, right? Practice the wall bouncing. It's a new mechanic that you guys got to get used to. It's gonna be used. Practice trying to get guys down in 4 bullets or 5 bullets with the M15 or whatever guys you're practicing with. Like I said, the idea behind centering is not that you're centered on the room. You're centered on wherever you need to be centered on. Centering here is bad, right? Until they're at the top of the staircase. Centering at the bottom of the staircase is where you need to be, because that's where you're going to get challenged from. So we're using our we can hear, right, that the people are stomping around, whatever. But like I said, the idea is that we're looking for where the gunfights are going to come from, not for what we think, right? If that was a real player, we would have got gunned. We weren't anticipating to get in a gunfight right there, right? The idea here is to anticipate every angle of every gunfight and create angles that people wouldn't come from. One of the biggest things that people think when there's an obstacle in the middle, right, is that people are just going to run around in circles. But literally, all you get on top of it, all of a sudden, they weren't ready for it. They're not centered up here. They lose the gunfight. Even the cameras the bots get their cameras broken. So, but come into these maps with the intention of, I'm here to practice. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not here to win the game. I'm not trying to fly through as fast as I can. Set it to 100 bots. Set it to 300 bots. It doesn't matter. Set it to unlimited. And just come in here and shoot your gun over and over and over again to where this thing is like an extension of your body, right? To where you're constantly anticipating the next gunfight, and try to get that muscle memory down where you're snapping from target to target. You're in and out of your ADS all the time so that you can rotate faster. A lot of people think that they need to run a higher sense because they're going like this, right? And they're trying to get to their targets as fast as possible. So even at 175, you can tell that I'm not snapping on anybody. But if you're going from here to here, you can get a turn on somebody. That's all it takes, is getting used to where your centering points are and putting those into work. So we're just practicing that idea. Also getting used to sliding. Sliding and aiming. Sliding and centering onto things. Right? This is a good room to practice it, because you have a drop off here. You have stairs in the back here. You have stairs right there. Like, this is a good place to practice that centering mentality and working these angles and just making these micro corrections that will put you on target faster. What you'll see a lot of newer players do is they center like this, and they think it helps them see things. And it does. You can see a little bit better because your gun animation is not in the way, right? But if I want to get in a gunfight with this guy, I have to go up, and then I can get in a gunfight with this guy, right? That's with a 0.2 second time to kill. It's an impossible ask, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're centered where we think they're going to be. That puts us in the gunfight faster than them. In Call of Duty, typically the first bullet wins. Whoever gets the first bullet is going to win that. So just take these tips, take them into the bot lobbies, put in some work, and this is going to be one of the fastest ways that you'll see improvement with your gunning, with your movement, with your map knowledge, all that stuff. Just rotate maps on what map you need to go to. That's going to be in your next rotation, whether you're a pub stomper, ranked player, or comp player. Take those and apply them, shoot your bots, and you'll see a large improvement fairly rapidly. The first day, you'll notice an improvement. You go in and you shoot 300 bots. I don't know how many pub lobbies you got to go into to get 300 kills, but you're just packing all that experience into one 10-minute, 20-minute little sit down where it's just you, got music on or whatever, and you're just jamming, shooting bots. So stay tuned for the next video, and we'll go into more stuff Call of Duty related, whether it's respawn videos, S&D strats, whatever you guys want to see, and we'll get it cooking for you. Thanks.